Hey everyone! This isn't an easy video for me to make. I've recorded and deleted this introduction probably 30 times now. How do you even begin to tell a story like this? I guess I'll just say it. This is about my sister, Elise, and how someone who was once my whole world became a stranger I no longer recognize. Let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up, Elise was my hero. She's 4 years older than me, and when you're a kid, those 4 years might as well be 40. She knew everything, could do everything. My earliest memory is probably from when I was about 4. I had this nightmare. I don't even remember what it was about now, but I remember waking up terrified, heart pounding, tears streaming down my face. My parents' room was downstairs, but before I could even call out, Elise was there. She had the room next to mine and somehow always seemed to know when I was upset. She climbed into my bed, wrapped her arms around me, and told me stories about brave little kids who fought off monsters until I fell back asleep. That was Elise, my protector. As we got older, that bond only grew stronger. When I was bullied in middle school for being the weird kid who was too into books and science instead of sports, Elise, who was this super popular high school freshman, would wait for me after school and walk me home. Once, she confronted these 8th grade boys who'd been giving me a hard time. I still remember how she stood there, 5'0", hands on her hips, looking these boys in the eye and saying, "If you've got a problem with my brother, you've got a problem with me. And trust me, you don't want that problem." They never bothered me again. When our parents divorced when I was 12, Elise and I became even closer. It was like us against the world. We'd stay up late talking about everything and nothing. She'd sneak into my room with ice cream when I was having a bad day. She was the one who helped me with my first heartbreak, my college applications, my first panic attack. Every milestone in my life, every up and down, Elise was my constant. "No matter what happens, it's you and me," she used to say. "Blood is thicker than water." I believed her. God, I believed her. I think the changes started about 3 years ago. Elise had gone through a rough breakup with her boyfriend of 5 years. They'd been talking about marriage, looking at apartments together, and then suddenly it was over. She never fully explained what happened. Just said it wasn't working anymore. Looking back, that was the first real secret between us. She started going out more, drinking more. She'd always been the responsible one, but suddenly she was calling me at 2 a.m. needing rides home from bars. I didn't mind at first. She'd done the same for me in college. But there was something different about her. A hardness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. A distance. Around this time, I just started my own business, a small design studio. It had always been my dream, and Elise had been my biggest cheerleader. "You're so talented," she'd always say. "You're going to change the world with your designs someday." When I finally took the leap and quit my corporate job, she was the first person I called. The first year of business was tough, as it is for most startups. I was burning through my savings, working 80-hour weeks, barely sleeping. But slowly, things began to turn around. I landed a few good clients, got some recognition in the industry, and finally started to see some financial stability. That's when Elise came to me with a proposal. She'd been working in marketing for about 8 years at that point and was feeling stuck. She wanted to join my business as a partner. Handle the client relations, the marketing, the business side of things while I focused on the creative. "We'd be unstoppable together," she said. "Just like we've always been." How could I say no to her? This was my sister, my best friend, the person who believed in me when no one else did. So we drew up the paperwork, split the business 60/40ths. I kept the majority since I'd founded it, and became official business partners. And for a while, it was everything I'd hoped it would be. Elise was brilliant with clients. She had this charisma that just drew people in. Our client list doubled within 6 months. We moved to a real office, hired 2 junior designers. Things were going so. But then I started noticing discrepancies in our books. Small things at first. Expense reports that didn't quite add up. Invoices that seemed inflated. When I tried to bring it up with Elise, she'd get defensive. "Don't you trust me?" she'd ask, with that hurt look in her eyes that always made me feel like I was the one doing something wrong. "After everything we've been through, how can you question me like this?" And I backed down. Because this was Elise. My sister. My protector. The person who'd never let me down. Until she did. It was about 8 months into our partnership when one of our biggest clients called me confused about their latest invoice. They'd been billed for services we hadn't provided at rates well above what we'd agreed upon. When I pulled up the invoice in our system, it looked normal. But the client forwarded me the one they'd received clearly altered with our company letterhead but inflated numbers. I confronted Elise that evening in our office after everyone else had gone home. I still wanted to believe there was some explanation, some misunderstanding. "What is this?" I asked, sliding the printouts across her desk. "The Johnson invoice. They're saying we overbilled them by nearly $8,000. She didn't even look at the papers. Just stared at me with those eyes that suddenly seemed to belong to a stranger. "It's business," she said flatly. "They can afford it. We've been undercharging for months." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That's fraud, Elise. We could lose our license, our reputation, everything I've built." She laughed then. Not her warm laugh that I'd grown up with, but something cold and sharp. "Everything you've built? I'm the reason this company is successful. You'd still be working out of your apartment if it weren't for me. That doesn't give you the right to defraud our clients," I said, my voice rising. "This isn't who we are." "No," she said, standing up. "This isn't who you are. Some naive idealist who thinks talent alone is enough in this world. I'm just being practical." I was speechless. It was like looking at a stranger wearing my sister's face. "I'm fixing this," I said finally. "I'm calling Johnson tomorrow, apologizing, and issuing a corrected invoice." Her expression darkened. "Do that, and you'll regret it." It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. I did call Johnson the next day, apologized profusely, blamed it on a software error, issued a new invoice. They were understanding, thankfully. But when I got home that evening, Elise had sent me an email. Just one line, "Check the business account." My heart sank as I logged in. The account was empty. Every penny, nearly $200,000, gone. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I called her immediately, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called again, and again. Nothing. Finally, a text. "This is business. Nothing personal." Nothing personal? This was my life's work, my dream, and she'd just taken it, like it meant nothing. I drove to her apartment, pounded on the door until a neighbor threatened to call the police. She wasn't there, wasn't answering calls from our parents either. It was like she'd vanished. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, police reports, frantic calls to clients trying to salvage relationships. I learned that Elise had been planning this for months. She'd been slowly gaining control of client relationships, making herself the primary contact, setting up separate communication channels. She'd created a nearly identical company name and registered it 6 months earlier. She'd been siphoning clients away one by one. But the money, that was just the beginning. Because what Elise took from me wasn't just financial. It was my trust, my belief in people, in family. The worst part was the silence from her. No explanation, no remorse, just nothing. As if 15 years of being my best friend, my sister, my person, meant absolutely nothing. Our parents were devastated. They couldn't understand it either. "She's going through something," my mom kept saying. "This isn't our Elise." But maybe it was. Maybe this was who she'd been all along, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. About 2 months after everything imploded, I was sitting in my new, much smaller office, basically a glorified closet I could barely afford, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer it. "Hello?" I said. "It's me." Elise's voice. My heart stopped. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "To talk," she said. "In person. Please." I should have said no. Should have hung up. But despite everything, this was still my sister. So I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking smaller somehow. The confident, radiant Elise I knew had been replaced by someone with dark circles under her eyes and a nervous energy I didn't recognize. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down across from her. "I'm not staying long," I replied. "Say what you need to say." She took a deep breath. "I messed up. Badly. I know that." I just stared at her. What was I supposed to say to that? That it was okay? It wasn't. "I got involved with some people," she continued. "Bad people. After Jake and I broke up. I was in a dark place and they seemed exciting. Different." She went on to tell me about a man she'd met, Marcus. Charismatic, wealthy, intense. He'd pulled her into his world of high-stakes gambling, sketchy business deals, drugs. She'd gotten in deep, owing money, making promises she couldn't keep. "They threatened me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Said they'd come after you, after Mom and Dad, if I didn't pay them back. The business, it was the only way I could think to get that kind of money fast." I wanted to believe her. Part of me still does. But another part, the part that remembers her cold laugh, her dismissive words, wonders if this is just another manipulation. "Why didn't you come to me?" I asked. "We could have figured something out together." She shook her head. "I was ashamed. And scared. I thought I could handle it myself." "By destroying everything I'd built? By betraying me?" "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know it doesn't change anything. But I'm sorry." She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a cashier's check for $50,000. Not everything she'd taken, not even close, but something. "It's a start," she said. "I'll pay back every penny, I promise." I took the check but didn't say anything. "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked. And that's the question I've been wrestling with ever since. Can you forgive someone who shatters your trust so completely? Should you? It's been 6 months since that meeting. Elise has kept her word about paying me back small amounts every month. She's in therapy trying to rebuild her life. She texts me sometimes. Simple things. A memory from childhood. A congratulations when my work was featured in a design magazine. An inside joke only we would understand. I respond, but it's not the same. How could it be? The sister I knew would never have done what she did. The sister I have now. I don't know her. Not really. People say blood is thicker than water, but what they don't tell you is that blood can also leave the deepest stains. I'm rebuilding too. My business is slowly recovering. I have new clients, a new office. I'm learning to trust again, carefully, cautiously. I'm learning that forgiveness isn't a single decision but a daily choice. Some days I think about that little girl who climbed into my bed during thunderstorms, who stood up to bullies for me, who believed in me when no one else did. And I miss her. God, I miss her. Other days I remember the coldness in her eyes as she took everything from me, and I wonder if I ever really knew her at all. So where does that leave us? Elise and me? I don't know. Family is complicated. Love is complicated. Betrayal breaks something fundamental in a relationship. And while broken things can sometimes be mended, they're never quite the same. For now, we exist in this strange in-between space. Not the inseparable siblings we once were. Not strangers either. Just two people with a shared history trying to figure out if we have a shared future. I don't have a neat ending to this story. No moral lesson, no 5 steps to healing after betrayal. Just my truth. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who can hurt us the deepest. And sometimes healing doesn't mean going back to how things were, but finding a way forward in this new reality. If you're going through something similar, just know you're not alone. Trust your instincts. Protect your peace. And remember that forgiveness, if and when you choose to give it, is a gift you give yourself, not just the other person. Thank you for listening to my story. For holding space for my pain and my healing. It means more than you know. Until next time.